It took me 50 years to realize that life doesn't shout its lessons at you. It whispers them in the quiet moments, in the regrets you try to bury, in the chances you didn't take, in the words you didn't say, and in the time you can never get back. And the saddest part is not how long it took to learn these truths, but how often I ignored them because I thought I had more time, because I thought clarity would come later, because I thought one day I'd figure it all out and be ready to live the way I was always meant to. But no one tells you that life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It moves forward whether you're paying attention or not, and one day you wake up and realize that more years are behind you than ahead, and suddenly the questions you once laughed off become echoes in your chest. Did I love well? Did I live true? Did I follow the quiet voice within or get lost in the noise of the world? And did I learn the laws that life has been trying to teach me since the very beginning? And not the laws that come from society or books or sermons, but the unspoken ones, the ones that guide the soul, that shape who we become when no one's watching, the ones you only begin to truly understand once you've stumbled, failed, forgiven, and sat alone in the dark wondering where it all went wrong or right. And I've learned that the first law of life is this: what you don't heal, you pass on, not just to others, but to yourself, in cycles of self-betrayal, in choosing the same pain in different disguises, in staying silent when your truth begged to be spoken, and you realize that ignoring your wounds doesn't make you strong, it makes you a prisoner. And every time you pretend you're okay when you're breaking inside, you feed a lie that eventually consumes you. And the second law is that no one is coming to save you. Not because people don't care, but because your soul's evolution is your responsibility. And no one else can live your lessons for you. And waiting for permission, validation, or perfect circumstances will only leave you stuck in a life that feels too small for who you really are. And the third law is that time doesn't forgive hesitation. It rewards action, not rash, thoughtless action, but courageous, intentional movement toward the things that call to your heart, because dreams die in delay, and most people are not limited by their potential, but by their procrastination, by the belief that later is safer, and that comfort is more valuable than becoming. But comfort zones are graveyards of the soul if you stay too long, and the fourth law is that energy never lies. You may say the right words and wear the right mask, but your life reflects your inner world, and when you're out of alignment, nothing flows, and when you abandon yourself, the world echoes that abandonment in every relationship, every disappointment, every repeated pattern until you finally listen. And the fifth law is that peace is not the absence of problems, it is the absence of inner conflict. It is the gift that comes when your life matches your values, when you stop living in fragments, and when you stop seeking approval from people who don't even approve of themselves. And the sixth law is that love is not what you say, it's how you show up, how you choose someone over and over again, especially when it's hard. And if you go your whole life looking for love that feels like fireworks, you'll miss the kind that feels like a quiet place to land, the kind that lasts, the kind that makes you better. And the seventh law is that you can't outrun yourself. You can change cities, jobs, relationships, even names, but if you don't confront the stories you carry, the beliefs you hold, the wounds you ignore, they will follow you like a shadow until you finally turn around and face them. And only then can you be free, truly free, not the kind of freedom that looks like rebellion, but the kind that feels like home, the kind that lets you exhale. And the eighth law is that forgiveness is not weakness, it is liberation. Not for the other person, but for you, because holding on to anger is like holding on to fire and hoping it burns someone else. And yes, some things are unforgivable in action, but even then, you can forgive the burden they placed on your heart, so you can finally put it down and walk lighter. And the ninth law is that you teach people how to treat you, not through your words, but through what you tolerate, what you allow, what you excuse, and what you give away hoping for love in return. And once you begin to love yourself with dignity, your standards become a boundary, not a wall. And those who belong in your life will honor them, not fight them. And the 10th law is that comparison is the thief of not just joy, but purpose. Because no one else is you, no one else has your path, your soul, your rhythm. And the more time you spend measuring your worth by someone else's highlight reel, the more disconnected you become from your own greatness, your own timing, your own truth. And the 11th law is that truth feels like freedom, even when it hurts. Every time you choose honesty over comfort, clarity over confusion, and authenticity over approval, you step closer to the life that was meant for you, not the one you inherited from expectation or fear. And the 12th law is that presence is everything, because you don't remember a life. You remember a moment, the way someone made you feel seen, the way a sunset stopped your breath, the way a hug felt after a long silence. And those moments don't happen in the past or the future. They happen here, now, and you miss them when you're too busy being everywhere but here. And the 13th law is that nothing outside you can fill what is empty within. You can chase love, money, fame, success, but if you don't love who you are in the dark, none of those things will make you whole. And the 14th law is that life doesn't get easier, but you get wiser, and the problems don't stop, but your perspective changes, your resilience grows, your compassion deepens, and you begin to see that your pain wasn't a punishment, it was a teacher, and your joy wasn't an accident, it was your birthright. And the 15th law is that letting go is not giving up. It is choosing peace over chaos, choosing to stop watering dead things, choosing to open your hand so that something new can find its way in. And the 16th law is that everything changes. People leave, seasons shift, identities evolve, and the more you resist it, the more you suffer. But when you embrace the ebb and flow, when you trust that even endings can be sacred, you stop clinging and start dancing. And the 17th law is that you are not your past. You are who you choose to become now, in this breath, in this decision, in this act of courage, and every time you say, I am not who I used to be, you step into your future with power. And the 18th law is that gratitude is not a practice, it is a lens, a way of seeing, a way of choosing joy even when things are hard, because when you focus on what you have, you multiply it, but when you focus on what you lack, you starve your spirit. And the 19th law is that boundaries are the highest form of self-love. They say, I love you, but I love me too, and I will not shrink to make you comfortable, I will not abandon myself to be accepted, I will not stay quiet so you feel strong. And the 20th law is this. Your life is your message. Every choice you make, every step you take, every word you speak. It took me 50 years to realize that life doesn't hand you answers. It hands you moments, moments that test you, stretch you, break you, build you, and if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the fact that each moment carries a lesson, a law, a deeper truth waiting to be heard, and so many of us live for years, even decades, brushing aside those whispers of wisdom because we're too busy surviving, too busy proving, too busy pleasing others and neglecting ourselves, too busy performing roles given to us by society, family, or fear, and by the time we start to wake up, we've already sacrificed years at the altar of should, and in the quiet corners of our life, when we're finally brave enough to be alone with our thoughts, we begin to hear the voice we silenced long ago, the one that said, there's more to you than this, and that's when it hits you, not with rage but with sadness, that the life you were meant to live was never about being perfect, popular, or productive. It was about being real, being kind, being awake, and most of all, being true to your soul's calling. And I now understand that the truest laws of life don't shout from stages. They emerge in solitude, in loss, in love, in failure, in the everyday choices that shape our destiny without fanfare. And if I could go back, I would tell my younger self, listen more, pretend less, chase less, feel more, and trust that your intuition was never your enemy. It was your compass, and one of the most powerful life laws I've learned is that silence is not emptiness, it's clarity, because in silence you finally hear the truth beneath the noise, the longing beneath the labels, and the longing always tells you what matters most. And I've learned that not all who wander are lost. Some are just returning to themselves, and not all pain is punishment. Some pain is passage, necessary to break open the parts of you that were caged by comfort and fear. And I've learned that time is not generous, it's honest, it will show you what you chose, what you ignored, and what you avoided, and it will ask you one day to live with the answers you created through your actions or inaction, and you begin to see that responsibility is not about blame, it's about power, because once you realize you are the author of your own life, you no longer live as a victim of other people's choices, and there is no freedom greater than owning your story, no matter how messy it has been. And I've come to understand that one of life's hardest lessons is this. Not everyone you love will love you back the way you want, and not every goodbye will come with closure, and not every apology will be given, but you can still choose peace, you can still choose to love anyway, to forgive anyway, to let go anyway, because healing is not about getting what you deserved, it's about releasing what keeps you stuck. And another law I've come to hold close is that your value was never in what you produced, achieved, or performed. It was in your presence, your essence, your truth, your quiet courage to be fully yourself in a world that rewards masks. And the older you grow, the more you realize that most of the things you chased were distractions from the one thing you truly needed. Self-respect. And there comes a time in life when you stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I like who I become around them? And that shift changes everything, because you stop shrinking for love and start expanding for truth, and you stop needing to be understood by everyone, because you understand yourself, and that is enough. And one of the most underrated life laws is that peace is louder than praise, and quiet happiness is deeper than public applause. And while the world teaches you to chase status, real joy is found in moments that can't be posted. Deep conversations, sacred solitude, unfiltered laughter, and the soft knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be. And as I reflect, I now see that regret is not a punishment. It is a signal that a deeper part of you still cares, still longs, still believes in the life you've yet to fully live. And if you carry regret, know this: it is not too late unless you decide to stay asleep, because the soul doesn't measure time like the body does. It measures willingness, readiness, and alignment. And even if you've spent 50 years ignoring the call, one moment of truth can begin the journey back to yourself. And I've learned that another law of life is that boundaries are not walls. They are declarations of self-worth. And when you set them, you're not pushing people away, you're protecting the space where your truth lives, and you begin to honor your yes and your no, your energy, your time, your peace. And from that space you attract people who love you not for what you give them, but for who you are when you are free. And another law I hold sacred is that your presence is medicine, and every room you enter becomes lighter or heavier depending on what you carry. So make sure you're not spreading the pain you refuse to heal, and know that healing isn't linear, isn't pretty, isn't quick. But it's always worth it, because every layer you shed reveals more of the real you, and that real you is where love begins. And I now know that the law of joy is simple. You must choose it, over and over again, not because life is easy, but because joy is a rebellion, a refusal to be defined by pain, a radical act of gratitude in the face of loss. And joy doesn't need permission. It just needs space, and you learn that forgiveness is for freedom, not fairness, and forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing your peace over your pride, and letting go of the hope that the past could be different, and instead focusing on what you can become now. And as the years pass, you understand that life isn't about finding yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, and peeling back every lie, every fear, every false identity until you return to the child within you who knew how to wonder, how to believe, how to trust, and how to be. And when you live by these laws, when you begin to honor your soul more than your status, your truth more than your image, your purpose more than your plans, you begin to live a life that may not be understood by all, but will be loved by the few who truly matter. And more importantly, you'll love it yourself, and that is the greatest legacy of all. Not a name remembered by many, but a life remembered by one as fully, bravely, and beautifully lived.